Hi, Jen. How are you?
I'm very good, especially now that I'm speaking to my other Jen. It seems like we've been paired up in a couple of different ways lately. So,
Yeah, this is great. I'm looking forward to it.
well, I think this is a fun, relaxed platform to get to know each other better.
Sounds good.
Somehow, I think we're going to have some good insights that you're going to share, and I'm going to like eat it right up out of
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So we both have these surprise questions. Neither of us are prepared yet to answer, so all off the cuff.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead. You
Okay.
go first.
All right, awesome. So this is considered the icebreaker round. First question for you. What was high school Jennifer Dodd's dream job?
Oh, gosh. And I had no idea you were going to ask that either. I will say it was being a pediatrician. I wanted to be in the medical field very badly. I wanted to help people. So that was my dream job.
Oh, interesting. Mine in my I had one in high school. My dream job was to be a television news anchor because I wanted to be able to like convey important information that people needed to know in a way that they could understand and would be balanced and wouldn't panic people. Like to be that center of information. So I feel like sometimes it felt like when I was a CEO during COVID, especially being on Zoom, it definitely felt like it was like a news anchor kind of experience because there was so much information coming at you. I was trying to
Exactly.
distill it and trying to communicate it out in a way that people could understand and also didn't strike fear, but helped us all take action.
And likewise, you're in a core communications role every day because the
Yeah.
CEOs is super important. And for me, that's how I fell in love with the restaurant and hospitality industry was that helping gene.
Really?
I went on with a nursing scholarship and figured out that was not for me. And I was working at Wendy's at the time, and I actually started noticing several things that are pretty simple, but they're still at the root of how I lead every day. One of those is that we get to be the best part of people's day in the
Yes.
hospitality space. I love
Yes.
that.
Me too. That's yes.
High five.
Yes, for
And
sure.
then the fact that food is about feeding the soul and nourishing the soul as much as the body. And I love that. So just so much about hospitality drew me in. And I looked back and realized that it's really all about helping still, but just in a different way and having a
Mhm.
responsibility to do it. How about for you? I gotta know if your personality was an ice cream flavor, what would it be?
Okay, so I would say it would be our newest flavor, which is sticky fingers. And I'm not saying that as like a way to promote the new flavor. But I am someone who likes like change and evolve and what's the next new thing. So it's always fun for me. Like firing up the innovation engine here at Handles has been very fun for me. And so that new flavor comes to mind because it's our newest and latest. Like it's what's the newest evolution of who we are. That's very true to our roots. Like it's kind of timeless classic flavors. And then there's like a lot of interesting bites to it. Like there's caramel on a peanut butter ice cream with
Yeah.
truffles and brownies. So it's like layered and interesting and has a lot of is interested and has a lot of interesting things about them. So I would
Excuse me, I
parallel
need
that
to get a
one.
napkin. You're making me very hungry right now.
So I think
Oh
it,
gosh.
it fits with my personality.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I would be Oreo, by the way, because I can be a little hard and drive fast if I need to be, but I'm real squishy in the middle. All right, let's just move to leadership topics. How about that?
Okay. All
Uh,
right. I'll hit you up. Who are your role models and how have they influenced your leadership style?
Gosh, I have so many in that too. It's just amazing. I've spoken a couple of times on podcasts about Edna Morris, who is really just an OG. I love her so much, and she still is a role model and a mentor today. Edna was the first female, well, the first chairwoman of Women's Food Service Forum back in its
Oh.
origination, and she was really early out of the gates to be take the helm as an executive leader. And I interacted with her when I was just an assistant manager, and she was the CEO of a steak brand that we were both a part of at the same time. And just seeing how she treats people and invites others in. but also drives hard to get to the
Mm,
best and final answer. And she still serves on boards and investor and that today. But I think my first mentor really in the business was a gentleman who's no longer with us, and that's a sad thing, but Ray Biondi. And Ray taught me that you could be anything you wanted to be in this business, and that it was really all about being your authentic self and then driving for results again,
mm,
regardless of obstacles, always being on the balls of your feet to drive forward. So,
mhm.
yeah,
Would you describe you said her name was Edna Morris, right?
yeah, Edna.
Would you describe her as an Oreo? Was she tough on the outside,
Oh,
soft in the middle?
yeah, yeah, yeah. She might have a little extra whipped cream on top because she is even better at being that wonderful leader that people just want to be around, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's
I love
great.
that. It's a good question. Good follow-up question. So how about for you? What would you say, obviously, as being a woman leader, I'm
Mhm,
sure you've overcome many obstacles, but just in
mhm.
leadership in general, it's every day we're faced with challenges. But when you look back on your career path, what was one of your biggest career obstacles? And then how did you overcome that?
I think one of them for me was I came up the marketing route. So prior to working in restaurants, I worked at General Mills for about 5 years in brand management. So definitely saw sort of like marketing as the centerpiece of the brand.
Hmm.
And then came into the restaurant space as a CMO and then became a president and ultimately a CEO over the course of about a decade with Wetzel's Pretzels. And I felt like the gap that I had and the obstacle for me was I spoke the language of hospitality, right? Like, how am I going to delight that guest, make that moment exactly how you said it, Jen? Like, it's the best part of the day. How am I going to make that even more delightful with the product they taste, with the experience of the store, with the relationship or interaction they have with the cashier across the counter? That's the way that was my orientation for the business. But to be the CEO, I had to really build my financial orientation and also being in part of businesses that were private equity held. Those private equity folks, they speak the language of numbers, of quantitative, of financial results. And they're two different languages and they're two different orientations at the business. And so I had to what I took from being a marketer is understanding that stakeholder, how they viewed the business, and get on the same side of the table as them to see the world from their view, to see the
Hmm.
business the way they did. And so that then we could communicate, we could align, and then I could, be a better CEO as a result of having more financial literacy and a stronger hold on how to drive the financial results for the business, which then benefits the team and all of this and franchisees and the investors as well. So for me, that was the biggest challenge, like getting over that hump, feeling like it wasn't a natural strength and leaning into it anyway, and really just educating myself and staying in it, even when it was like hard and uncomfortable and not an area for me that I naturally gravitated to.
It's so common, especially with women leaders. And I just spoke about that at Whirl, when
Really.
that, financial knowledge and being encouraged to get into that as younger girls had not been part of the past. Thankfully, I think that's changing now for future generations. But you're right. I look at it like that financial acumen and ability to drive those results are the keys to the playground. If
Right.
I want to get to the playground, well, I got to have a key, and
Right.
the PE firm or the shareholders are the ones who give me that key. So I
Right.
need to know it and be able to. Then I can go do the stuff that maybe I want to do that's more fun than numbers, but I got to be able to do that all day, every
Right.
day.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
love
Yeah, for
that.
sure. Okay. Next one. Oh, wait, you asked me that one, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Okay,
your
okay. All right. My turn. Okay, there's never a dull moment in this industry, which I think is more true in restaurant than almost any
yeah.
other industry I've experienced. But what are the things that keep you up right now and the things that are giving you the most hope?
Well, humanity on both ends of that coin. I love humanity. I love thinking about what we need as humans and where the trends are heading. But I also love helping people get to a place that's best for them. Early in my career, we were taught about suggestive selling. So, of
Mhm.
course, suggestive selling at its basic form in a QSR, fast food experience, is about averaging out your check, adding average check, but I looked at it more as rounding out the sale. If this customer leaves our experience today and they don't know that we have this great product that they could complement their meal with or have as
Right.
a snack later, then we're missing that, right? And then later in casual dining and polished casual, you learn the power of the Sullivan Knot, is what it's called, where you take the guests through the experience and you suggest what they should be looking at that menu because it always feels overwhelming.
Yeah.
People are looking for a respite. They're looking for a way to have a departure from their busy
Yeah.
life. And 2025 is just as busy as it was in
Yeah.
1990 and seems more complicated, but is it really? That's relative. At the end of the day, people want to be nurtured and guided like, hey, you should look at this and this is good for you. It's a good decision. Not everyone takes that recommendation, but they enjoy that you gave it to them. And we actually used to have statistics back in the day that showed that up to 80% would take your recommendation if you
Oh, yeah.
presented well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think humanity in its full form, that's an ordering standpoint I'm talking about, but whether it's employees, customers, investors, shareholders, or suppliers, we're all human. And I
Hmm.
love this industry because it is a people business and it always
Hmm.
will be.
Hmm. Yeah.
Even when we integrate technology, we need to make sure that's considered, that the influence and the impact and the personalization can't be lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
I
keeps me
totally
up at
agree with
night.
that. You said something I hadn't heard the term, but you said that the sale of the nod. Did you say?
Sullivan nod. Sorry, it's my accent from
Okay.
Alabama.
Sorry. Sorry. No, no. What, tell me what this, I've not heard that.
Well,
The
you got it.
Sullivan.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
powerful stuff. You probably use it innately because I'm convinced that you're just a great leader, but it's the Sullivan knot. So if I come to you and you are not expecting me and I say, hey, Jen, have you tried on your sticky fingers line?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to love it. It is so delicious. So
Yeah.
I'm not overtly, loudly nodding my head. I'm suggested something to you and I'm nodding my head. Where if I said to you, hey, Jen, have you tried the new sticky fingers? You know, if the head's going the other way or stoic, it's not going to be as influential. It's really a good trick.
I've never heard that.
What do you
I'm going to
think?
look into that one. Yeah. Yeah. But I agree with you, like the idea that you can help curate the experience for someone,
Yes.
to think about it that way, like there's a million decisions and you know your menu better than them walking in most times. And the extent to which you can curate that or guide that decision to help them basically get more value out of the experience, right? More joy out of the dollar they're
Yeah.
putting down.
Yeah.
I think when you do that, it makes the exchange a lot more fun for both people. Like, and there's something that's gained from both parties through that experience of that
And
feeling
how,
of being taken care of.
and how do we do that with integration of AI and technology without losing that curation and that
Yeah.
personalization? It can be done and it's getting better, but that's what keeps me up at night. I don't want to fall out of love with the industry. I want it to be a compliment and make it even bolstered, you know? So,
Yeah, so I've been thinking about that one a lot. And my philosophy on this one for handles, it could be different when I was a different place. This brand is 80 years old, okay? And I think and started in Ohio, but 75% of our business is coming from the West today, about 50% of it from California. And I'm convinced that part of what Californians like about it is it's sweet and it's simple and you talk to someone across the counter who writes down your order and it's not fast. It actually takes a little bit of time, the interaction, and there's 140 flavors we offer, 48 every day. So you need someone to talk you through it. And I feel
mhm.
really committed to, and I think those kinds of interactions build trust in communities,
Yes.
which as people have moved to digital lives, the data shows there's less trust. And so I think having the hospitality industry maintain a personal touch can actually do stuff to rebuild community trust. And so I'm all for like technological advancements, but I wonder about how we can use that in the place where there's low value in the interaction, right? Like that there's not a lot that the guest or the cashier that, or the server is getting out of it. Okay, maybe that's a place where you can put technology, but maybe it's more back of house than it is front facing.
Well,
Is
there's
the
definitely room in the back of house. I mean, John
Yeah, that's the
Paul
way.
has done a great job with that when he was at Chipotle. So we'll see what he does at Starbucks. But I think every brand has their own complex problem they have to solve through tech. So for us in the juice business, Main Squeeze Juice, we pride ourselves on the fact that our juice is cold pressed, fresh squeezed, not high pressure pasteurization. So
Right.
at the end of the day, you get all the real stuff in your gut.
In
Well,
store, that happens in store.
yeah, every
Yeah. Okay.
store. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we have to take the guests on that journey and explain why our juice is a little bit more. It's definitely
Right.
more than what you would pay for in the grocery aisle and in many of our competitors because it's not pasteurized. It's got a 7-day shelf life because it's got real good
Right.
stuff in there that you can
Right.
absorb and have
Right.
bioavailability. Well, in our history, we had an employee come out to the juice counter and talk to you about that because we have this beautiful variety of juices. And that entails asking what your goals are. If you have any goals, do you just want to try a sample of this tasty juice or do you want to know about your gut or your eyes or whatever?
Right.
And so that's a real complex thing to do in a tight labor market.
Yeah.
So we're employing technology right now. It's not out yet, but it's on its way to have that interface take place without being fully dependent on the employee. And then given the customer space that they could take that journey in the store or before they come in, by notifying them in the app that it's there, and then continue that evolution of that journey because it goes into
Yeah.
our smoothie line where there's no sugar and stuff like that. So hopefully
Yeah.
they can take themselves on a self-guided journey and not be fully dependent on the employee.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
great employees, but they're going to be busier with more orders because we're getting the
Right.
word out.
Right. Yeah. And I think that the education that's required for a person like that, it's you're asking them to be almost like a homeopathic wellness doctor, right? To
Yes,
be able to understand,
a
hey, what do
lot.
these functional ingredients do? And every time you're changing an ingredient, like how do you translate that through? So I can definitely see how technology would be a way to serve that information up to a customer in a more like you can keep it updated, you can keep it fresh, you can keep it recent, current, and easier for them to access.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we all have a simple, I mean, not a simple, a complex problem to be solved, and we hope to do that
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I'm getting my tongue tied. All right, how about I go next on asking
Oh,
you?
sure, sure.
All right, so with let's talk about nuts and bolts a little bit more. But growing a legacy brand while you're staying modern is one of the hardest tasks. You said you're an 80-year-old brand, and congratulations, by the way, that's amazing.
Thank you.
So, how do you accomplish that marriage from a leadership position? You've got all this great history and viability, but then you've got to stay modern and staying true to all the generation of customers that went before while you're onboarding new ones that we know are very different. How do
Hmm.
you grow that and how do you keep everybody happy across that
Hmm.
spectrum?
You never keep everybody happy. First, know that, especially in your franchise business where you've got a bunch of different entrepreneurs who all have a unique and valuable perspective to offer. You know, the idea of getting everyone happy is really hard. So first, unleash yourself from that. I think this,
Love that.
for me, that was part of the appeal of, was the challenge of coming to a brand that had that legacy. And I think in hospitality in particular, you have to really stay true to the soul of that brand. And I think when I see transitions in leadership teams, when they struggle, is when they disconnect from the heart and soul of the brand and try to like inject, try to transplant a new organ and say, no,
Mhm.
no, this is what the brand
Oh my
means.
gosh, that's good.
Yeah, and oh, thanks. And so yeah, that's where I see them struggle. And so what I really wanted to do first was like understand what made this tick from the people who knew it best, which, if I look at my leadership team today, I added it up. I have like 50 years of combined experience with the brand and 60 years of combined experience in franchising with other brands. And so I'm like, okay, I've got it. Like I have enough of people who are bringing in best practices from the world in franchising and people who are bringing in enough of the heart and soul and history of the brand that we're going to be able to protect it and actually leverage it to grow. You talked about that authenticity piece. It was Ray, who talked to you like being an authentic leader. I think
Mhm.
brands are the same way. So being authentic to what you are, and then evolving off of that. Like, so let me give you a very simple example.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that this brand does, and as an 80-year-old brand does well, is our flavors are all timeless classics. So like, let other people do fig and olive oil, and other folks can do a beer series, and we're going to launch banana cream pie. Or we're gonna launch, right. And so and you can stay true to timeless classics and there's you once you build those guardrails, there's all kinds of innovation and iteration we can do off of that while also staying true to the heritage. So that's generally how I think about it. It's
I
fun.
genuinely impressed with that answer, and I'm holding on to that, especially the organ transplant, because goodness knows, people kind of freak out about the rate and pace of disruption and the
Mm,
competitors that are in the space and the flattening of our competitive set, because now it's hard to have that key point of differentiation when we're
yes,
all accessible to the customers inside the four walls of their house and in their hand, because they can get
yes,
delivered now. So where it used to be much more about your real estate and your access points, we're really competing, but staying true to that essence and not trying to transplant yourself into something that's not authentic and that feels foreign is so important. Thank you for that.
yeah.
That was a real gift.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mhm.
Thanks for that response. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, then the one I have, we're in the wild card round now, I think,
Yeah,
Jen.
I think so. Well, no,
So,
we had the nuts and bolts.
oh,
It was,
did
yeah, I went first that time, so I threw us off.
no, the one I had for you was the what keeps you up at night and what's giving you hope when we talk
Oh,
through
good.
humanity. Yeah,
Okay, perfect. I already answered two in one.
yeah,
Yay.
yeah. So we're good. Unless you have more.
No, no, I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay, this my wild card for you is this one. So I've been watching, this is more specific to your business. I've been watching the proliferation of cold pressed juice in the grocery store, right? And you've talked about it right now, so I'm just so curious how you're thinking about this. Because I see it and I was like, I don't understand why like how consumers are getting a freshness halo. They have this perception of freshness of stuff that is like been sitting, I know, in trucks for a long time before it even gets to them. And I look at it and I'm like, I just have to believe that like the functional benefits are depleting over time simply because of like the supply chain, cold chain transport versus a fresh pressed option or a fresh smoothie option.
Mhm.
So I imagine that's a benefit of main squeeze. Like how are you struggling with that and how are you wrestling with it and what do you think's happening for the guests there and what's just curious how you're thinking through that.
It's not an easy problem to solve, and I really appreciate you asking. Because at the end of the day, there's great confusion. We almost
Right,
could fall into the trap of spending a 2-to-1 ratio on marketing and branding, being two times the amount needs to be spent on. We are not what you see in your grocery store
right.
aisle. We are not what you see in our competitors that say HPP juice on the back. I'm not suggesting that's bad product because
No, no, me
has,
either.
it has
But they're
real fruits
different.
and vegetables in it. However, it per FDA regulations, it has to be either pasteurized and high pressure
Right,
situations so that it minimizes the risk in a non-controlled environment, like you said, for weeks
right,
or sometimes months at a time
right,
in a
right,
bottle.
right,
And if it's freshly squeezed, that you cannot hold it longer than 7 days because obviously all the things that come along with fresh product line.
right.
And most of our storage is going to be there a lot less because we forecast on shorter runs so that we can juice even more frequently and smaller batches. It's just really a highly beautiful product. So the way we're trying to navigate that is we're relaunching our brand. We've done really well with that. Our sales have been great the last 5 months because we started talking about it differently.
Hmm.
Really are the trailblazers in the nutritious lifestyle movement. We
Right.
were long before I came on board because it's an 8-year-old brand, and our original co-founders still run their store today in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and they're just in love with the brand and the baby that they birthed together. And they're actually one of them is now in charge of my R&D process and my social
Oh,
media. So
cool.
she is helping a lot with that. But we just have to talk about our benefits, and then in our
Mhm.
new rebranding. Okay, drum roll. This will be the first time I've announced it, and we have much bigger competitors, and I'm sure you're going to hear this. But you'll see it come fully live in May. But we're going to be a beauty brand. So
Hmm.
we are focusing on the truth of the benefits that you get from our products. I mean, our juice, as I said, you get full bioavailability. You can
Sure.
get custom juices that are not custom all the time, but specific juices that are feeding your need. Our smoothies have no sugar, no water, no filler, no ice, no artificial sweeteners, no artificial flavors. Yet it tastes like a treat. So we have to make sure people understand I'm paying a little more for this product, but
Yeah.
I'm not getting the glycemic index jump. I'm
Right.
not going to be hungry in 2 hours because I'm not going to go through that sugar crash. So
Right.
really, I'm fueling myself. I keep saying you're actually eating something that's giving you benefit versus fooling yourself. You feel for the moment.
Oh,
Don't keep it, right? It doesn't run your engine long. So,
so
um,
fueling, not fooling. Oh, that's cool.
yeah, that's what I say. And it's I think it's true. And
It's true. Yeah.
and then the glycemic index, I call this, we're on nature's Ozempic because when you eat the right things, your body gets the stuff to make your engine run. Now, how
Right.
do you translate that to Zennials? It's a little harder. So
Yeah.
we are making sure that we have beautiful allergen-friendly custom products like our oat nog latte, which was amazing. Or, oh my gosh, if you didn't see our s'mores latte and our s'mores gluten-free toast line, it was wow. It was so
Wow.
delicious over the winter months. So we're trying to make sure we have products that, speak to them and get them in the door. And then again,
Mhm.
that's that
Once
capture.
they're in the door, you feel like yeah, you'll
Yeah.
feel the difference on the food.
And they may
Yeah.
not understand that and appreciate that fully. So it's a bigger burden to make sure they understand why they're paying a little more. But now, in the state of the world, we're hearing about clean ingredients and freshness than we've ever heard before.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that for Main Street
Yes.
Company.
Yes. Yes. It does feel like that. It does feel like you're tapping into it at a time where there's a lot of attention, interest, and that will all translate into demand for that type of product.
And the last part of that answer would be we're really leveraging authentic influencers.
Oh,
Influencers are
okay.
under crisis right now because they're being challenged by people. Are you really using and buying the stuff that you're telling us? And so we are really pulling in true, authentic influencers in every market that are just so in love with the product and have been for years. So they're doing a good job telling our story, and it's resonating with all audiences, really.
Okay. And then I think I heard you say that the concept is that it will pivot towards a beauty brand. Is that what you said?
Well, that's what we call it for ourselves
Okay.
because we want to talk more about that glow that you have happens
Gotcha.
because of the product that you're consuming and it tastes so great. You had no idea that you were actually giving yourself the health benefit that you seek. And so we just want to talk about nutritious lifestyle more than health and wellness because nobody wants to eat their vitamins. It
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
sound,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
though it really is.
Yeah, well, when you talked about the beauty brand and then tying it to the influencers, that really works because it's hard to like explain to someone how it makes you feel, but you can say, well, see my skin, see my hair, see my
Yeah.
glow, like that you can communicate very effectively in social media. So I think it helps tie like the brand benefits to the way you're trying to communicate it.
Exactly. If I showed you my before and after pictures, you'd be like, what? This is what eating right has done for you. It's been amazing. So I'm
Oh,
getting
that's
younger
cool.
by the year.
Oh, that's awesome.
So for my wild card question for you, I mean, we all know that ice cream is, gosh, who doesn't wake up and go to bed sometimes just dreaming about ice cream? And I think that it's had its day in youth. It's had its day in what we see people saying, "Oh, just give me the whole pint. I'm having a hard day." But
Mm,
what are you doing to make sure that people are including your core product line in all the celebrations of life because there's
yeah.
quite a bit of complexity to the product line that you can be offering and does that even matter? And so is a product line giving you that access or is it the experience? How are you
Yeah.
making sure that your product is central to decision making on a weekly basis around daily activities or celebrations in life, I guess.
Yeah. Great question. There's so many ways you can go with that. But the first thing I'll say is that similar to you, all of our ice cream is made from scratch in store.
Yes, I
So
love it.
different than all the other ice cream players, like a Baskin, even a Salt and Straw, where they're being made off-site and then going through supply chain transport and several weeks, maybe months until you're eating it. You're
Mhm.
you're having product from us that was likely made that day before, probably similar shelf life to what you have in juice. And I think that's important because I think people like taste the difference, but I think it's also important because we're really committed to that. So we're not, you won't see us in grocery. I'm not trying to become the next Haagen-Dazs. We're not going to become life celebration that you pick up at the grocery store and eat at home. We really do want to be the place where you go to celebrate and you go to enjoy that moment with your soccer team, with your family, with your friends. And one of the things we've been looking towards is like, okay, it's easy to use as a reference, but like Disney hospitality. If you think about Disneyland, that's about creating magic moments. What
Yeah.
are the things that they do to do that? And they do very small things like you walk up to that store, you walk up and you can get a button that says, "It's my birthday. It's my first time visiting Disneyland." And so we've been thinking about how can we replicate that here? Like we know
Mm.
people come to celebrate good grades to they won the soccer game. They had their wisdom teeth taken out, and that's all they can eat. thing basically to make make celebrations sweeter and make tough and to take the edge off a tough moment. And so we're starting to think about that and like how can we get understand what those moments are and give people an in-store experience when they come in for that moment that is custom to them. So like what you talked about in that hospitality in the back in the very, very beginning, tying back to that.
I love that.
Working on it, but
That sounds so doable, and I'm confident you'll get
yeah,
it in the story. I have no
yeah,
doubt. Yeah,
it
and I love
is.
handles, by the way. And I should have mentioned one more thing when because it's so hard to talk about the juice piece. When I mentioned the FDA piece, that's only required if you do HPP, if you're doing a third party seller. Did I say that? I don't know if I did.
No.
Like
Mm-mm.
not all juice is required to do that with FDA. If you're squeezing it and selling it in the same LLC or corporation, you don't have to do HPP. But if I'm making the juice and providing it to handles, to
Right.
be able to go out and resell it there, you're reselling it, then it's required that I HPP it because of the lack of control there.
Right. Right.
So
Which
I
makes
should have,
sense.
see how complicated that whole answer is? That's hard to distill to the customer.
It's really hard. But when you said
But
fueling, not fooling, that was like, whoa, that's very cool. Because I do think there's something about like, yeah, fooling your body. I've had that experience where like it gives you a sugar hit without feeling full. And I've fooled it like it doesn't realize what it's taken in because the nutritional density isn't there.
yeah, but you'll feel it in 2 hours when that crash happens and you're
Yeah.
hungry. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
leads people to eating more. That's why I said we're nature's Ozempic because you're going to be full and you're feeding your gut. And, as
Yeah.
we're hearing, and I'm not trying to over rev on that word, but we're hearing more and more about the obesity crisis,
Yeah.
which is so scary across the board. And, I want to be clear. We believe in treats. So our oat nog latte certainly had some good calories in it, but it was all
Yeah.
clean, good ingredients. Your ice cream is not filled with a bunch of things that keep it from spoiling for months at a time in a freezer because you're making it in small batches
Right.
in house. So your authenticity is going to be more real than your body's going to be able to use that too. And I love that about you. Thank you for giving me a safe place to enjoy my ice cream fix. I love it. And it's
That's
delicious.
awesome. That's awesome.
Well, I think that was all my questions for you today. This was so fun.
Mine too. Thanks, Jen. I'm glad we got to meet virtually, and I look forward to meeting in person at a future conference or something like that.
Yes, soon.